Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Brian's Horror Corner, and welcome to this horror movie review as part of my 31 Horror Movies in May series. So today we're going to take a look at the third movie of a franchise. I actually reviewed the first two movies in a similar series. Well, actually, the same series I did last year in May and October, and that is the Amityville series. And so today we're going to be taking a look at Amityville 3D here, which is part of this triple pack 3D DVD set that I have here. So yeah, Amityville 3. Let's just go ahead and get into it. Starting with the setup, the premise, and the cast, and then I'll get into my thoughts and review, which will be spoiler free. So Amityville 3D is also known as Amityville 3: The Demon, is a 1983 American supernatural horror film directed by Richard Fleischer. Fleischer. Um, it was one of many movies during this time that used 3D as part of the movie that was released in the early 80s, and it's the only Orion Pictures film filmed in that format, which was kind of an interesting caveat, I thought. So this movie basically opens with a couple who are basically in cahoots to expose con artists um, in the infamous 112 Ocean Avenue house, Amityville house. You got journalist John Baxter and his partner Melanie. Um, and after they expose these con artists that they're claiming that the house is haunted and all this stuff, um, they're persuaded to purchase this house by the real estate agent Clifford Sanders. While preparing the house for John, Clifford investigates footsteps in the attic. He's locked in the attic where a swarm of flies attack and kill him. John believes Clifford died of a stroke even after Melanie shows him some photos she took of the real estate agent before his death, depicting him as a rotting corpse. While John is at work, he nearly dies in a malfunctioning elevator. Simultaneously, Melanie experiences bizarre occurrences in John's house. She is found later that night by John, cowering in the corner hysterically against the wall. Her attempts to convince John that something is inside the house falls on deaf ears. Later, while looking over blow ups of the photos of Clifford, Melanie discovers a demonic looking face in the pictures. When she attempts to show the photos to John, she is killed in a horrific car accident. Melanie's death is ruled accidental by everyone, including John, who remains oblivious to the evil in the house. So that's basically how the film starts, is the setup and the premise of it. There's really just not a lot there, as there's really not a lot in this movie at all. So the cast-wise, we have Tony Roberts as John Baxter, Tess Harper as Nancy Baxter, Robert Joy as Dr. Elliot West, Candy Clark as Melanie, Lori Laughlin as Susan Baxter, Meg Ryan as Lisa, Neil Barry as Jeff, and Josephina Ekonov as Dolores. Sorry if I'm butchering that last name. Um, so yeah, Amityville 3D. So first thing I'll say is I'm not the biggest Amityville horror fan of, or the fan of this franchise, I should say. I know there's like 18 movies or something, but really only the first three were released in theaters, and then you had to wait another 20 some years until the Ryan Reynolds movie came out, the remake of Amityville Horror. They're fine. I mean, I found enough to like about these first two movies. Um, but I didn't know anything about the Amityville 3D other than the fact it was obviously done as one of those 3D gimmick movies that they did during this time. Basically from 82 and 83. Jaws did a 3D movie, Friday the 13th did a 3D movie. Um, and then yeah, Amityville 3D as well. I'm sure there's some other ones too. I think Piranha did one or something. But that's really all I knew about this movie. So as far as my thoughts about this movie, it ain't very good. I'm just gonna be straight up with you. If you've seen this movie, my condolences. If you haven't seen this movie, it won't be a strong recommendation for me. So it's one of those movies, and I always try to give every movie the benefit of the doubt that I review, but this one was hard to come up with pros for. It really was. So let's just go ahead and get into it. The first thing I'll say of interesting note is it's interesting to see a young Meg Ryan and to a lesser extent Lori Laughlin before they became stars, or at least obviously Meg Ryan's a bigger star than Lori Laughlin ever became, but to kind of see them in this movie very young, I think they're around 20 years old probably before they really hit it with the thing that would ultimately make them on the scale of stars, make them what they became. Obviously, Lori Loughlin's more well known in recent years from the college scandal she was involved in. Um, but yeah, so that was interesting. I guess I put that as a pro. Um, I thought the last 15 minutes of the movie was pretty decent, especially as it relates to the demon and some of the effects with the house blowing up and stuff. Some of the makeup that's used and effects in that regard. I thought the score of the movie was the score and the music used in the movie was pretty decent. They tried to make it horror movie music. It didn't scare me at all, but I didn't think it was the worst part about this movie. Um, the look of the demon at the end when he blows fire in the face of one of the characters and burns off his face, I thought was fairly effective. There's one death or one scene or sequence in particular I thought was one of the better ones of this movie, and that's where one of the characters ends up drowning, and their ghost is walking up the stairs, and her mom ends up witnessing this. I thought it was actually kind of effective and creepy. And it also kind of moves the movie forward into the third act with two opposing characters sort of believing two different things. One of them believing that this character drowned and she's dead, and the other one having witnessed this dripping ghost of this character walking up the stairs, believing her to be alive, and not really giving on either of their positions. So that was kind of interesting, I thought, and it worked okay. You can tell I'm really scratching the bottom of the barrel here to try to come up with some pros. Um, it was decently handled. Yeah, some of the acting was okay, namely Tony Roberts and Tess Harper. When I say okay, I don't mean great. I mean literally okay, as I'm again trying to scrape the bottom of the barrel for this movie. Yeah, that's all I have for pros. um, Getting into cons for this movie, Amityville 3D. This movie, it's just so boring and exposition filled. Nothing really happens in this movie till the last 10 or 15 minutes. It's basically an exposition movie with bad and cheesy 3D effects that don't look good, and the movie's just boring. I mean, I'm amazed I didn't fall asleep through it watching it. To be honest with you, the main character I have another problem with, played by John Baxter, or not the main character of John Baxter, played by Tony Roberts. Not believing this curse or that evil or something weird going on in this house, despite the fact he loses just about everyone that he knows around him who's been in the house. It's just kind of, what's it take, dude? Do you have to actually see somebody murdered in front of you by thin air? I mean, it's just, I don't know. It's just annoying and stupid. It doesn't make any sense. Um, yeah, but again, we gotta have it that way to move the movie forward and try to move the plot forward. Despite the fact that bodies are being stacked up like cordwood around them, it makes no sense. As I said, they have bad jump scares, including one just awful scene where Melanie, one of our characters, like earlier in the movie, opens the door as she hears noises in the houses. She's waiting for John to come back and meet her there. She ends up running into another character where they basically just stand there and scream at each other, and annoyingly so for about what seemed like an eternity, but it was probably legitimately over a minute. Why? It's just, oh, good times. This movie's not at all scary. They downgraded the rating from an R to a PG. Of course, the first two Amityville movies are rated R. This one is rated PG, so you don't even get any on-screen deaths. You don't get any blood or gore, really. You don't get anything in this movie. Um, Despite trying to make this movie scary with the music and the effects and sort of those dark hallway parts of the movie within the house, like, ooh, we're walking down a dark hallway or into a dark basement. None of it works. I've had a scarier time watching comedy movies, quite frankly. I think Ghostbusters, the original, is scarier than this movie. Um, Yeah, very underwhelming. This is another one of those movies that has a lame dream sequence in the middle of the movie, which serves no purpose other than to try to trick the audience. The only good thing about it is they only did it once, so I'll give them that, I guess. The pacing of this movie's bad. It's very slow for 90% of the movie. Hard to stay engaged, even harder to stay awake. The first death of the real estate agent with a bunch of flies in the attic is laughably bad. They try so hard to just stick random 3D gimmick things into this movie, including these flies during this death scene, and it doesn't work at all. So, other than all those things, this movie's fantastic. Um, yeah, yeah, I would say I would recommend staying away from Amityville 3D. Again, I'm not the biggest fan even of the first two movies, but I can watch them. And quite frankly, if this movie wasn't already part of a three pack here, I couldn't get rid of it fast enough. Honestly, I'm going to give this movie a 6 out of 10. I'm not really sure why I'm giving it a 6. I guess they tried. Um, and like I said, there was one sequence in the last 15 minutes of the movie, the one sequence with the drowned character and the ghost of her. Um, and the last 10 or 15 minutes of the movie that weren't overly offensive. So I guess that gets them a 6 out of 10. Damn, I'm generous. Because really, this movie should get a 2 or a 3. But it's hard for me to give a movie that's a 2 or a 3. I think I've only given one, and that's probably my least favorite sequel of any horror franchise. If you know my channel and have watched my videos, I won't mention what it is. You probably know, but yeah, not a good movie. Amityville 3D. It's just kind of there. I didn't even get into the fact that this movie was made under a lot of problems. There was a lawsuit with the Lutz family that they couldn't really call this a sequel or have any connection to the previous two movies, and so there's that whole thing. I also find it kind of funny at the beginning of this movie when they're exposing these frauds, these you know these con artists. At the beginning of the movie, they use this. They have somebody that's all dressed in black with a twig and a stick trying to make this ghostly kind of thing look like. I don't. What's laughable about it is they basically did it for this actual movie too. When they're not trying to expose con artists, but this movie being exposed as a con artist, basically, it's just not a good movie. If you've seen it, my condolences. If you haven't, don't. I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10 because I'm just a nice guy. But Amityville 3D is not a good movie. Not scary at all. Would not recommend it. Um, yeah, I don't really have much else to say about it. So yeah, that's my review for Amityville 3D. I apologize for this review and that you had to sit through it like I had to sit through the movie. But thank you for watching. Please like this video and hit the little notification bell below so you don't miss any of my hopefully much better movies that'll be reviewed the rest of this series. And please make sure to hit the subscribe button down below so you don't miss any of my great horror content coming out throughout the rest of this year and beyond. So thank you for watching this hard movie review and hard movie to get through. Have a good day. Stay scared. Bye.